The ability to analyze and process information is the most important skill that a person has, or doesn't have, depending on the person. Our brains are our greatest assets, and our ability to think is the greatest determinant as to whether we'll live the type of life we want, whatever that life might be. Whether you want to travel, whether you want to accumulate materials, whether you want to spend your time laying around on a beach all day, whatever it might be. In order to get that life, you have to have an ability to analyze and process information to make good decisions. And so many people in society, I would argue the overwhelming majority of people in society, lack that ability, and because of that, people are frustrated. They're frustrated because they can't spend their time doing the things that they want to do, because they have to spend their time, or I should say, they have to trade their time doing things they don't want to do to gather the resources they need to survive. And of course, all of these people, if they were able to make better decisions, or one decision here, one decision there, to make it where they no longer have to trade their time for those resources to survive, well, of course they would make that decision. So it all comes down to the ability to think and figure out what is the best way to structure your own life. And in the modern world, one could argue the ability to think is more important than ever, because the task is more daunting than it's been throughout human history. We are bombarded with more information than at any other time in human history, because we live in the age of the internet. And the amount of information that we are tasked with processing is absolutely staggering. People spend 24 hours a day in front of screens, whatever that might be, whether that's surfing the web, whether that's clicking through websites, whether that's playing games on the computer, whether that's spending time on social media, which I think many of us have, what I would argue, addiction to social media, whether that's spending time in front of the television, or listening to the radio. Humanity is plugged in on a scale that is simply unimaginable to even a generation before us. And imagine the generation coming up now only knowing a world of social media, only knowing a world where everything they do and every second of every day they are plugged into everything going on in the world around them. The ability to process information, I would argue, is more important than ever before. And where do we get our information from? We get our information from social media. We get our information from Google. We get our information from the internet. We get our information from the television. Some of us watch the news, whatever news you watch, whether that's CNN, whether that's Fox News, whether that's alternative media, whether that's Breitbart, whether that's the Huffington Post, whether that's Stefan Molyneux, whoever it might be, we are plugged in, and that is where we get our information. We get our information from, even when we try to get away, we are bombarded with constant information coming from outside sources. We sit in front of televisions. We watch late night comedy shows. We put on our favorite show, whatever that might be. We go to the theater and we watch movies. And people have difficulty processing all of this information. And then, of course, the final place that we get our information from is academia, right? From the time we're 3 years old or 5 years old, whatever it might be, we are coerced, we are mandated to attend school through compulsion for a minimum of 12 years, 10 months a year, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. And the result of all of that put together, I would argue, is a massive failure. Because if you look at, just observe society, you could see that there's mass mental illness everywhere around us. It's an epidemic. And we could go beyond our own observations. I don't think we need to, but if you just look at statistics, anxiety, depression, they are at historical highs. People live their lives on pills because they can't deal with reality. Their most important asset, their minds, are unable to deal with reality. And people handle that in different ways. And one of the primary ways we see this mass mental illness is within our political system. It doesn't matter whether you're left or right, people don't know how to talk to one another. People are nasty to one another. People get so worked up, they spend their time screaming for this macro level change that seemingly never happens, right? People think change happens, but you'll look back 30, 40 years and you'll find that in spite of powerful rhetoric, very little changes in our country. And I think because of that, people are in this state of constant anxiety, constant depression, constant mental illness, because they're calling for change over something they can't control. And it's lack of control which really causes all of these disorders. It is lack of control which causes anxiety. It is lack of control which causes depression. So people go to social media and they post their point of view. And then the big social media companies, how do they respond? They start to censor people. They start to ban people off social media platforms. So people scream about the social media platforms just like they scream about the politicians. But again, nothing changes because we don't have that type of macro power. But what I do find interesting is that people don't make change the one place which they have the power to do so, which is very interesting. The one place where they can actually leverage some control is the one place that is largely ignored. And of course, that is the school system. And we live in a corrupt society because the left and the right side of the political spectrum don't agree on anything. But if you did some polling or just look at polling, the overwhelming majority of society agrees that our academic system is broken, is completely shattered. Yet there's no big overarching public conversation about fixing the education system, and anyone that does talk about fixing the education system is only offering the same exact solutions that have been tried and recycled for the last 5 decades and have been proven to be a failure. Yet, we will sit around and we will scream about everything wrong in society, and we will continuously relinquish control. And my only conclusion that I can draw is that the school system and the media and the social media has dumbed down, has retarded our ability to think to such a level that people will conform to madness as long as culture and society expects it of them. Why is it that people will continue to send their children to a school system that they know is broken, that they know fails society, and they know has failed them themselves? Why would you hand over your child's ability to think? And I am no longer going to allow the whims of this politic or that politic, whatever position you might hold, to dictate what I'm angry about. I am going to get angry about the one thing that people on the left and the right should all be angry about, and because of that, we should be able to change it. And that is our academic system is broken. And we need to demand change. And I am going to do that at the grassroots level. So moving forward, the overwhelming majority of my focus is going to be on the academic system, pushing for macro change while at the same time teaching people how to change on the micro level. And because of that, I have launched Classical Learner. I have opened my page on Facebook. If you would please go on, I'll put the link below, and follow Classical Learner on Facebook. I'm going to be doing a lot of work to show people what the education system has taken from us and how we can make changes in our daily lives that will make sure that our children are able to think, to process and analyze information so that they can make decisions that will empower them to live the free life that they want. So if they want to travel, they can travel. If they want to spend their time laying on a beach, they could spend their time laying on a beach. And if they want to spend their money on material, well, that's their choice. They can do that as well. We are going to change the world, and we're going to start one mind at a time.